white and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
A drab performance, but a point is enough for United to secure a playoff spot, and more importantly, a home tie in the second leg. We look back on the not-so-thrilling encounter at Sutton before previewing the first leg of the playoffs against Bradford City on Sunday night. Done in one this time, Dan, isn't it? That's a rarity. Getting the intro out in one go. Not
I nearly gulped my name because I'd literally just had a swig of juice before you got to my name, and I was like, Dan McLennan.
Yeah, to be fair, I felt something going in my throat as I was starting it. So I thought, I'm just going to power on through this, but there you go. Yeah, as the intro says, job done, I guess. Just about, I mean, obviously it was never in doubt in the end, really, but it's. We'll be talking about the game soon. There's not a huge amount to talk about from it because it wasn't a great game of football, if we're brutally honest. But yeah, the most important thing is we've extended the season by at least 2 games, haven't we?
Yeah. I think I'd sort of said to you, like in our chats and that, I predicted it'd be Bradford. Mm-hmm. Just when you looked at the fixtures and whatnot. Bradford are masters of their own downfall with that Crew game we mentioned last time.
Yeah.
It's that. Yeah. No, two games, playoffs. Anything can happen. Bring it on.
Exactly. And we've seen with some of the playoff games that have happened in the National League this week, like the chaos opportunity in them is just off the scale, isn't it? So, well, let's see how it goes. Right, before we get into it, we'll do a brief review again of our sponsors for this season and also where you can find the podcast and how to get in contact with us. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch for once again sponsoring the podcast this season. The London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, supporters games and fundraising for the club. This season they'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all good podcast apps, whether it's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast. Basically search for the Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and then when a new episode comes out, you'll get a little notification to tell you to download it and listen to it at your leisure. Also, if there's an option to review on any of those apps, please do so. If you can give us a 5-star review, that'd be really lovely. It's a great way for us to get the message out about the podcast, and so more people can learn about it, and we can spread the word even more. You can also find us on social media, at Brunton Bugle, on Instagram and Twitter. If you go onto Facebook and search for the Brunton Bugle, click like as well, you can follow our page. We're also on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group, and also on the Buzzy's Back message board, the new message board that's replaced the Cumbrians.net. And also, if you want to drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Right, Dan, as ever, we start with the news. There's only one bit of news to talk about, isn't it? Playoffs, tickets, that kind of thing. It's been
no, but isn't.
Go on.
Unprepared as ever.
Yes.
We'll do the playoffs first.
Yeah, okay, well, let's do the playoff news first. You've got a surprise bit of news that I completely forgot about, clearly. So obviously we're into the playoffs. That means the games are taking place this Sunday at 7 p.m. at the University of Bradford Stadium. That's the first leg. And then obviously the second leg is on Saturday the 20th at 3 p.m. At home at Brunton Park, of course. That was moved from the Friday night, was it, I think, or the Thursday night? I think it was supposed to be the Friday night.
Yeah, I think what happened was the League One placings were decided quite early. The 2 home teams for the second leg, and it was going to be Sheffield and Barnsley were both going to be home at Saturday at 12:30 and 3, and South Yorkshire Police were just like, not a chance, which
Absolutely.
I can kind of understand. So they swapped the 2 Saturdays with the Thursday, Friday. So
yeah, so it means we're on the Saturday now, which is not great news for me because I probably can't make the second leg now, annoyingly, because I've already got something arranged that day, which is typical. But it's on Sky. Both games are on Sky, so if you can't make it to the games, you can watch them, which is great news. Dan, so I mean, tickets have gone on sale for this. We've been given about 2,400 for Bradford, which is quite a generous allocation, isn't it? Because you were looking at the rules about this, and actually they've given us more than they actually
Yeah,
need to.
but it's created absolute uproar at the Bradford end. Really, really has.
Yeah.
Because basically, the rulings for the playoffs, uh, if your ground is up to 20,000, you are entitled to 10%, give or take a few
Yeah.
for your segregation and that.
Yeah.
So if it's over 20,000, you can just give a block of 2,000.
Yeah.
Now, the problem here is Bradford's 2 blocks of the stand wearing equate to about 1,300 off the top of my head.
Yes.
And if they wanted to give us the 2T and Meccano style stand behind the goal, that's a similar number. I think it's about 1,100 on the 2. So they would end up giving us 2,700.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Hughes at some point has mentioned that he would like home fans behind both goals. So the only way it was possible, because obviously that stand down the side is set so that the dividing gates are 2 blocks along. So the only way they could do it was to flip it round and give us the 5 blocks, and there would still be dividers, etc. But in the process, there's a lot of season ticket holders in there who are quite rightly a bit angry, because I think the main thing is it's not the fact that it's happened; it's the fact they had no warning it was happening.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting.
I guess it's one of those ones where
There's a thread on their forum, and it's about 50 pages long, and it's unreal. It's brilliant reading.
it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I suppose it's one of those things that are almost waiting, because if it does all Stockport or even Northampton that they're playing, then they're going to have to give us the bigger allocation. If it's Salford City they're playing, they probably would have got away with giving them the existing away end, wouldn't they? I think, and I don't think Salford would have grumbled too much. So that's I suppose the difficulty of it. I mean, they should be grateful, because Salford City have only given, as they in the rules are allowed to, they've only given 560 odd tickets to Stockport for that game, and that game won't be a sellout. So there's going to be loads of empty seats in there when they could have just given Salford the normal away end and probably got the game close to a sellout. But as it is, it probably won't be a sellout now, I don't think.
Yeah,
which is astonishing.
Because Stockport, as I think we mentioned the other week, the last couple of games have just given the seats down the side. Because I think people forget Edgeley Park only actually holds about 9,000. That big stand sort of dwarfs. You think it's bigger, but it only actually holds about 9,000. So them 900 seats on the side, they're all they need to give on the 10% rule. But
yeah, so I imagine they'll be given similar to Salford for the game at Edgeley Park for that one. But there you go. So so I mean, just to say, as we're recording, there's only a handful of tickets left for the away game, which is
I think there's literally 50 single seats and telephone only.
It's astonishing, that, isn't it? 2 days and sold out that allocation. Bear in mind, only season ticket holders could buy on the first day as well. It's just absolutely remarkable. And
the fact that the club launched a new ticket system 5 minutes before they went on sale.
And believe it or not, it's gone quite well. There's a genuine, when they did that, I thought to myself, what on earth are they doing launching this?
Peak CUFC,
But fair play. It's gone well, and actually, I haven't used the system I didn't actually use it to buy, because what happened was I got Greg to sort of ticket for me for the away game, and they're clearly doing the checks on the season ticket numbers and stuff, because actually, I logged into my thing, and it's saying there's a ticket being bought for me on there.
Right.
It shows it really does work. So fair play at the club, for once for getting that right, and What a fantastic following it's going to be that night, to have that many there. And I know it says, there's single seats left, but if it's based on the game down there on the midweek, the other Montfern also at the end of last season, it'll be a free-for-all for seats.
Yeah.
As much as you've got an allocated seat, you're probably going to find that someone's likely to be sat in it based on an experience. And actually, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you get all the kids who want to sing sitting together as well, perfect. Helps the atmosphere, doesn't it? So there you go. Right, Dan, what's this bit of news that you've got?
The EFL confirmed the key dates for the 2023-24 season.
Yes.
It will start on the weekend of the 4th, 5th and 6th of August, and it will finish on Saturday, 27th of April. The reason it finishes April, not May, is it's a tournament year.
Yes,
It's
Euros.
the Euros in Germany. And they've got the League 1 and 2 final on, I think it's the 18th and 19th, something like that. Then the following weekend, they've got the FA Cup final on the Saturday and the Championship playoff on the Sunday.
That's a risky
Now,
one, isn't it?
I would love to see what would happen if a Championship team...
Yeah.
got
Say
to
like a
vote.
Norwich City or something like that.
Yeah, QPR, Norwich, someone. Say they end up in the playoffs and they also got to the cup final. Because there has been the odd Championship team make the cup final in recent seasons.
Yeah. It just seems very, very
It's a
risky,
gamble,
that.
isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
what I don't get with that as well is, why are you playing the League 1 and League 2 ones first when the Championship is the one where the players are most likely to be internationals that need to get away?
Yeah.
I think that'll change. I reckon they'll move that round again, you know. That's best experience. It just feels to me like that's what'll
It's
happen.
to do with the call-up period for Euros, though, isn't it? So
Yeah, but that's why I think, you know, why don't you do the Championship one earlier? Give them a bit more time, so, you know, they're free to get away.
Championship and League 1, and then have League 2 after the cup final.
Yeah, just that would make sense, but that seems far too sensible, doesn't it? But there you go. Yeah, so there you go. Key dates. I don't think they've put in what the Christmas dates and things like that have.
No, but you can usually work them out, can't you?
Yeah, you usually can. There you go. Right, Dan. Quick loan watch roundup.
Whoa!
Oh,
Update.
come on, God.
Update. We have now sold out of tickets for Bradford.
Well, there you go. While we're recording, that's breaking news. The perfect thing for the podcast medium, isn't it, really? Breaking news stories. Right. Loan watch time, Dan. We've only one to cover now because all the rest of them have come back. And it's Max Kilsby. What a night for Max and Anane. It's going to be tight for the second leg, isn't it?
Yeah, I was hoping to get to this, but I forgot I had my lad's parents' evening via iPad as it is these days. So I was tied up on Tuesday evening.
You could have done it from Galabank, surely. You could have sat there with the iPad, give it a little cheer.
Tempting.
Yeah, so Annan Athletic, I mean, brilliant night for them. It's definitely going to be tight in that second leg because, of course, they beat Dumbarton 6-0 in the first leg. I mean, like, you normally see crazy scores in playoffs, but you don't see one team run away with it so much in the first leg very often. Do you? And it's the fact that actually in Scottish League 1, there was another one like that, wasn't it? It was 6-2 to, was it Airdrie against Falkirk?
Airdrie, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Like, just astonishing. So, yeah, 6-0 helped a little bit by the fact that Dumbarton had a man sent off. But Annan were already 2-0 up at that point, weren't they?
Yeah,
And I've watched a not great quality video of this goal, but I think it is Max's goal. It's been given on the BBC to Tommy Goss, but I think it's Max's goal. He seems to be the one celebrating, so Max Kilsby getting a goal there. Brilliant. We've given him the goal anyway, haven't we? So he's now up to 34 appearances, 5 goals. Which is a great return for a lad playing at left back for them, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Obviously, they went on to score another 4, which means they're now going into that second leg. You'd imagine they're going to get through, don't you? I mean, it takes something incredible if they went out from this stage, really, considering they need a 7-goal swing. They will face either Clyde or East Fife in a 2-legged final if they get through. Clyde, I think, won the first leg against East Fife 1-0, was it?
Yeah.
Overnight, I think. So, looks like it'll be Clyde. So, interesting to see how it goes there. But brilliant stuff from Max Annan and obviously Peter Murphy is the boss there. We really hope he can get them up into... If they get into Scottish League One, it'd be a hell of an achievement, wouldn't it, really? Considering, some of the clubs that have been ahead of them. Dumbarton were well ahead of them for most of the league, weren't they? So
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. Right. Match of the time, Dan. Unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about this one. Sutton United 1, Carl United 1. As we said in the intro, it was a job done, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just about got it over the line. It is not one that's going to... It's not a classic end of season account that's going to be remembered for the ages, is it, really? It was... We kind of went into it thinking, okay, look at Sutton's last 6 results. They've lost all 6 of them. Should be winning this, but this is Carl United. We never do it the easy way. Because you were telling us some crack before the game, but you were talking to some of the Sutton players, weren't you, in town? Because you were actually in Sutton, weren't you, the night before?
Yeah, when we checked out the Premier on Monday morning, Two or three of their players obviously stopped there pre-match
Yeah.
and chatting to them, and we're like, a bit of joke, nice and easy, boys. We want the 3 points to guarantee the playoffs, and they were like, "Oh, you'll get them, you'll get them." I'm like, "Oh, we on the beach? Yeah, we are, we are." Well, they didn't play like that.
Certainly didn't, to be fair. They just got, I don't know what it is about some of these smaller clubs that have come up from the National League. They just have a hoodoo on us, don't they? With one exception, which thankfully is the one down the coast, isn't it? Just like Harrogate and Sutton, we just can't seem to get a result against them, can we? They seem to have a little bit of a hoodoo over us almost.
Yeah, it's we have odd teams like this. Harrogate, Sutton. It's just both playing yellow at small grounds.
Yeah. Got some good little players there, Sutton. It's weird, it makes you wonder how they managed to go on such a poor run, really, because they looked an all right team actually against us this weekend. So looking at the team that Simmo selected, Dan. Turns out what I suggested was right, wasn't it, in the end? Because I was the one who suggested Armour the left centre back and Robinson left wing back, and that's what Simmo went with. With Alfie McCalmont coming in as well for Ryan Edmondson, and then Jaden Harrison, Joel Senior onto the bench. Were you at all shocked by the team selection? I think you were expecting something a little bit different, weren't you?
Yes and no. I can see why he's give Robinson a start and moved Armour in. I mean, I know I can see Armour becoming a centre back in time. I didn't expect it straight away, But it was just really off day, wasn't it? It was just you kind of hope we were getting some badness out of our system before these two big games, I don't know if it was a little bit of nervousness or...
It kind of felt like there was a bit of nervousness in the crowd, even though, we're pretty much there and we're sorted. We had a good, 1,300 fans down, which is an incredible turnout that far for what wasn't a dead rubber game, but didn't have a huge amount riding on it, did it really, in the end? And but the crowd felt a bit nervous, and I don't think you're helped by the fact that you split over basically 4 stands there, aren't you? You've got the standing and the seating behind the goal, so they're almost 2 stands. Then you've got another bit of terracing on the right of the stand, then a bit of seating on the left of the stand. It's kind of because we were stuck in. I was with one of our listeners, Martin, and Chris, and a couple of us in the terracing to the side of the stand. So we had a side view of the pitch. We had a good view, actually, to be fair, but it felt very isolated from where the ones making the noise were, if you know what I mean. So it kind of it was difficult to get any sort of atmosphere going in that bit. It all felt very quiet and very nervous in there. But I mean, you were right in the thick of it there, weren't you?
Yeah, it was quite packed on our bit. One thing that always amazes me when I say to you sometimes when we play in London, you see people at a match you never see anywhere else ever again.
Yeah,
there was someone posting a fashion picture for the Gram, not far from me, and I'm like, "You're watching Sutton there, Carlisle, likes."
Yeah, should actually say something done actually that I think about 8 or 9 different people at the game at the weekend. I think you had it a few times as well. People coming up going, "Are you the guy from the Brunton Bugle?"
Yeah. They recognise our voice when we're obviously talking with friends and
like quite a few people come shook hands and. I got to say a big thank you to everyone who came over and gave some nice comments.
Yeah. Well, I had my mate Carl with me, who's a Crystal Palace fan. He came over and he was talking, and he bumped into a mate outside, and he was like, "Bloody hell, Dan knows everyone in there. It's ridiculous." I'm like, "Well, I've said hello to quite a few people today, but." Most of whom were actually travelled from Carlisle, So.
Yeah, it was a brilliant turnout all around, wasn't it? Well, let's talk about the action itself, Dan. I mean,
what action?
Well, first half, when you look at the chances, we only had one real chance in there, which we'll talk about in a sec. But Sutton pretty much dominated the first half, didn't they? Really, without really peppering Holy's goal with dozens and dozens of shots. They did have the best chances, clearly, and. There was, early on that free kick routine to the far post that was headed back across, and I think it was Angol, who headed over the bar from a few yards out. He should have done a lot better with that one, to be fair. And then the goal, just a bit of a soft goal to give away, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So it's kind of... Firstly, Armour's beaten to the ball by Kouassi. The ball comes to... It's Bolowen? I can never get this one right. It's Lado used to play for Notts County, isn't it? What's his name?
Yeah.
Anyway, him. Baldwin got the ball on the right.
Baldwin,
yeah. It's a Dutch name. I do apologise for butchering it big time here. He able to get back inside to Kouassi. And Armour and Robinson just stand off him a little bit too much, I think, and he's able to pick a spot. And Holy didn't. I mean, you had a better view because you were behind the goal, but it didn't look like Holy had any chance really. Just really well placed shot, and it's a goal. Yeah, that's the reality of that one. Only real chance we had first half was for the first time a half decent free kick routine.
Yeah,
because we were saying, Martin was saying to me, I think when the free kick was given, it's like there's no point of us even having this because we never score from them. And then actually they tried some difference and mocked. I was suspicious about it because the way they were both standing was if Dennis was going to curl it with his right foot or Moxon was going to curl it with his left foot. So I thought, well, they must be doing something here because there's no way they're going to hit it like that. And as it was, Moxon lays it off to Dennis. Quick turn, and he absolutely smashed it off the crossbar, didn't he? If that goes in, you'd say brilliant.
That crossbar will still be rattling now. That's how hard he hit it.
Yeah,
I think absolutely cannoned off it.
Yeah, I don't think you realise sometimes how good of a long shot actually Dennis has on it.
Yeah,
because his previous clubs he scored quite a lot of long range goals. He hasn't managed to get one for us yet, but he does have a decent hit on him. But yeah, in terms of chances, that was pretty much it. I mean, they nearly got a second when there was a mix-up at the back between Huntington and Holy. I have to say on this one, and having watched it back, I think Huntington's the one in the fault here. Holy comes out as far, pretty much as far.
At the time.
Yeah,
I think both have a little element of it, but slightly more Hunt than Holy.
Watching back, there's an argument, or maybe Holy can come out and deal with it and kick it, but the problem is Huntington's in the way, and so is the attacker.
I think when it happened, they both sort of shouted at each other, then just looked and nodded. When I think,
I think Holy comes quite far today. He can't come any further in terms of wanting to catch the ball. Huntington shields it fairly well, but then doesn't head it. Then Holy, maybe he can kick it, but then the argument there is that the problem is Huntington and the attacker are in the way. And if he kicks it, he probably kicks it against him and it could go into the back of the net. As it was, the ball came out to Ajiboye and he tried to chip it into the empty net. But he chipped it onto the roof of that instead. There was a few boos at half-time. You noticed that in your bit? Seemed to be a few.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't think it was a booable performance. It was just a crap performance.
Yeah, just a bit drab. There wasn't a lack of effort. It was just everyone just seemed to be a little bit off, didn't they? And into the second half. Big improvement, I'd say, second half. I mean, it wouldn't have taken much, to be fair. But Moxon had a dipping shot that was straight at the keeper's arms, really. He didn't really threaten him too much. But actually, the big difference came from Patrick playing a bit further out wide. And actually, there was a great bit of play down the right from him to beat his man and put in a lovely low ball that I think, again, you'll have had a better view of this than me. I had a side-on view and it looked like it did. It looked like a defender just gets a toe onto it, takes it away from the keeper and takes it just beyond the stretch of Ben Barkley at the far post for what would have been a tap-in, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It was so close. This came right across where I was stood just about 10 yards past the post, and even my mate was like, how have they not got a notch on that? Just it was equivalent. It was similar to Gaza in Euro 96.
Yeah. It was fairly similar.
It was that close.
Fairly similar, but it was an important touch by the defender. I think there was another one as well on the left where Patrick made a mug out of the defender as well, but his cutback didn't find a player. And then the own goal, pretty straightforward, wasn't it? Really long throw in by Barkley, headed on by Charters, and Kizzy just didn't have time to get out of the way, did he? Basically, it was such close range, and keeper was already going the other way, and it just rolled into the back of the net for the equaliser. They could have actually still won it though, Sutton at the end, didn't they? Where Kouassi had another chance to score. He slipped as he hit it, and actually Holy does really well to get fingertips on it because of the slip. It was really arrowing towards the corner, wasn't it? So really good save there. And then Yeah, that was it. Pretty much, not much else to talk about in terms of the game. There wasn't a huge amount.
No, there wasn't.
There's no real quality on display from either side, really. I mean, occasional bits from Ajiboye looks a good player, doesn't he? And he's one of those ones. If
it was good having my mate with me, who was obviously completely independent, and he'd already seen Sutton this season.
Yeah,
because unfortunately he watches the trophy we don't like to, because Premier League fans, it's collecting grounds I don't get.
Yeah.
Which I can see their point of view. I don't like it, but he it's quite interesting because he said to me that he thought Dennis does a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
That's unseen. Patrick is one of the most annoying players he's seen because
he's got quality. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah, there was a couple of times where he put the afterburners on and created stuff.
Well, I've got him as a talking point in a minute, so we can cover that more.
And Garner, he was impressed with Garner when he came on, because he was very intelligent, some of his play.
Yeah. He's clever like that, isn't it? And you've got to use him right. And there's a question up later on, I think, in the preview bit as to whether he actually should be maybe starting against Bradford in the first leg, possibly.
Well, I've got my opinion on that.
Right, well, we'll see what that is in a bit. Yes, I mean, in terms of talking points, I mean, as you said before, wasn't pretty, but the job was done, wasn't it? No doubt.
Yeah,
that was a poor performance.
It was like a 5-minute period where we went from 7th to 5th when we scored, and there wasn't much going on. There wasn't much going on at most of the games anyway, was there?
Yeah, well, we've got a League 2 round-up going up, and like you said,
I watched the EFL highlights show the other night, and they did it in. They do it in timed formation across the games involved. Yeah. And I think our division was the least.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There wasn't a huge amount of jeopardy involved in the end, was there really? So there you go. No. I mean, the most important thing, Dan, is though in this situation is didn't get beat, got the point we needed to get in, and even better, we secured a home game in the second leg.
Second leg, yeah.
And that's the only thing. My next talking point, I've titled here, who'd be a manager? Because that's a phrase you love to use on the pod. Often when you don't want to answer something, because you don't want to go into the detail of it. But you know what? I think you're absolutely right to say it today, if you did. Because who would be a manager after that? Because there's a real dilemma for Simmo at the moment, isn't it, in terms of what do you do with formations? We'll talk about what we think he should do in the preview, but just in terms of talking about what the position Simmo's in, it's tough because 3-5-2 he's relied on all season, and it's
3-5-2's been the go-to, and we switched to 4-3-3 mid-game to take advantage of stuff. I think the Salford game 4-3-3 has put him off a little bit.
It has, but then there's the question now is, at the moment, are we relying a little bit too much, especially with the absence of Mellish, on square-ish pegs? I'm not saying totally square pegs, but square-ish pegs in round holes to try and fit the 3-5-2, because he clearly doesn't fancy Joel Senior. That's
Ben Barkley is not a right wing back.
He's solid. He can do the defensive side of it, but the problem is he doesn't get forward enough, and as a result, we rely heavily on going down the left-hand side. And the problem we had in this game with that was Jack Robinson had an okay game, to be fair. I thought he did okay again. Not quite as good as he did in his sub-appearance against Salford, but decent. But Jack Armour plays that left-sided centre-back role very differently to the way John Mellish does. He doesn't charge the ball to the box. He gets into exactly the same areas that Robinson wants to be in terms of crossing the ball.
Yeah.
And that creates a little bit of an overload, and it doesn't really work that well. The problem is Barkley doesn't do that as much going down the right. Obviously, Whelan doesn't get forward in the same way down the right either. So we end up being very, very lopsided, and it's very much the ball's coming down the left a lot, isn't it?
When Robinson came, he was described as a left-back, a left centre-back.
Yeah, I think, personally, he's probably a better crosser of the ball than Armour. From what I've seen in the few appearances he's made, he looks like he's got a bit more of a whip on it. Didn't quite see it as much against Sutton, but we definitely seen it in other games. But I kind of feel like Armour's much more adapted to that left wing back role now.
Yeah,
that is his role.
He knows his place in the system because he's played it all season.
So it's a big question for Simmo, I think, isn't it? Do you go 4-3-3 and maybe Barkley suit it a bit better playing as the right back rather than a right wing back? Or do you bring Senior in and just say, right, we're going to go with that? Or do you go Gibson at right wing back? Or do you... Cause I think I'd like to see Gibson playing on the wing if we're playing a 4-3-3. But these are things we can debate in the preview section, aren't they, Dan? But yeah, it's as you say, it would be a manager, eh? You know, it's just... It's a tough one for him. The Amari Patrick question is another one. It's a tough one. You mentioned there about your mate saying, you know, frustrating play, and he is a frustrating player. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
There was a 10-minute spell in the second half where he had them on toast.
Yeah,
he absolutely was scorching them.
And then Simmo took him off.
I was stood there thinking, why haven't you done that for the first 50 minutes? As soon as he got the ball, they were shit scared of him.
I've got some thoughts on that. Simmo took him off not long after that, didn't he? And I think Simmo's took him off there thinking, right, I want to keep him fresh for the playoff games. I don't want to risk anything here. There's no point in doing anything stupid. He looked best because at that point, because it feels like tactically he'd been told, right, just stick out wide. Don't worry about playing as a striker. Deno can do that himself up front. We'll get players in around him. You just stick out wide. And he drifted out from left. He drifted out to right. And I just don't think he suits at the moment, especially without Mellish in the team. I don't think he suits playing as that central striker. I think he suits being out wide. He gives us that wide option now, which actually Mellish has been giving us, playing as a left-sided centre-back. Which is why I'm, as you'll see in the previous section, I'm edging towards the idea of 4-3-3 for the game on Sunday night, because I feel like that's how you get the best of him. He's an enigma, isn't he? But there's no doubt when he's on his game like that 10-minute period, he's unplayable, isn't he?
Mm.
Yeah, you just can't cope with him. I'm trying to think of any more talking points. I mean, in terms of Armour at left centre back, how do you feel he got on?
6 out of 10 sort of thing. It wasn't terrible, but
below probably his usual standard, isn't it? Which, you know, he's playing in new positions. Yeah. That's fair enough, to be fair. I thought Alfie had a good game in midfield again. I think he looked our only real threat actually first half, to be fair, going forward. And like you said, Dennis did a lot of running as well, and I'm kind of glad he got taken off after a bit as well, just to keep him fresh for the playoff games.
Yeah,
so that's what you're hoping. In terms of the Sutton away day, obviously we did it last season, Dan. Wasn't a great day out. Better result this time. Not as great performance, but, you know, just as good as it can be. Well, what's your thoughts in terms of how they've improved it? You obviously went down the night before, didn't you? And it sounded like half of Sutton had been taken over by Carlisle fans for the evening.
Yeah, went in 3 or 4 pubs and there was Carlisle fans in everyone, little groups here and there. And Sutton's actually got quite a nice little town centre. There's several pubs, you know, food options, a couple of hotels. You know, it's not the worst place I've been. The Weatherspoons was obviously busy on the morning of the match. A lot of people headed for there. And it's only a 10-15 minute walk down to the ground. So, yeah, I must give a shout out though. Probably the best stewards I've
100%
encountered in a way and for a good while.
Yeah, really friendly, really, really helpful. Like, because we got to the we went to the fan zone that's behind the main stand, which I'll be honest was a bit shit. they didn't have any beer on pump left. It was literally just bottles of Moretti. So we went there and then we wandered around and we got in a little bit late. We queued for ages for a drink. Managed to get one, and then we basically we came in just after they'd done the national anthem. And we took one look at the stand. We're like, bloody hell, how are we getting in that? Because it was packed, and there was. It's a better stand than it was last season. It's a bit steeper, isn't it?
Yeah.
The seating's better on the
I
other
think
side.
a few people have only been able to buy seats and they went on the tennis.
Yeah, I get a feeling that because there was a few empty seats, and we sort of looking, we're like, well, how on earth are we supposed to get? Because the stairways weren't clear as well, so that's one slight issue. But to be fair, the steward said to us, look, there's that terracing on the side. You haven't actually got tickets for it, but just go over there. We'll message ahead and they'll let you in. And they come around like, yeah, come in, get yourself a space. And yeah, really friendly, really helpful.
Yeah,
it's the way it should be. You know, the amount of you deal with when you go to games like this, you know, it's just nice to actually meet someone that are, you know, happy to be doing the job. I suppose it helps that there's not a huge amount of riding on the game. It's not quite as tense, but there you go. Anything else you want to talk about from the game, Dan?
No. I will now vow never to go to Sutton again, like I did last season.
Until we play them on the final day of the season next season.
Hopefully that vow manages to stick this time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what we're hoping for, isn't it? Well, with any luck, we won't be going there. We'll be going to Charlton next season, maybe. Fingers crossed. You never know. We're not getting ahead of ourselves unlike some Bradford City players, though, are we? Right. League Two roundup. There's not a huge amount to cover here, Dan, because the drama in the automatic promotion race was pretty brief, wasn't it, for this one? Northampton Town, they got over the trauma of last season and secured a top 3 spot thanks to a 1-0 win at Tranmere. They took the lead after 5 minutes through a brilliant Sam Hoskins goal. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. Really good volley. And never relinquished it from that point, did they, really? It was kind of like, Sky had that game and the Stockport game on live, and the excitement was killed off straight away, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit of a damn squib in the end, and Stockport didn't help themselves by missing that late penalty, did they?
Well, yeah, they only managed a 1-1 draw against Hartlepool United. Obviously, Hartlepool already relegated this season. They did take the lead in that one, but then Hartlepool equalised, and Ben Killip, the Hartlepool goalkeeper, had an absolute blinder. Basically, if you haven't seen some of the saves he's made, for a keeper who's known for a rick as well, I mean, Stockport must have been fuming. Like, come on, surely for once you could actually put one of your usual performances in. But they missed a penalty in injury time, which wouldn't have made a huge amount of difference anyway, because obviously Tranmere still went on to win the game 1-0. But there's a funny video of the Tranmere bench celebrating when they get the news through that Stockport have missed the penalties, knowing that the chances are increased again. So Stockport had to settle for a draw, and obviously that means they finished in 4th place. Salford had a bit of a nervy end to the season, though, didn't they?
Mansfield nearly caught them, didn't they?
Well, it was a 1-0 defeat they suffered at home against Gillingham. We both kind of thought this was a tough game for them to finish the season on, isn't it? Because Gillingham, I think, are the second best side since the turn of the year behind Stockport. So the smart money next season would be on money on them to go up, wouldn't it, I think, from League Two? Because you'd imagine they're only going to strengthen further in the summer through the new owners who've put a bit of money into them. So they're the top tip for next season. Hopefully we won't be competing with them. They lost 1-0, and Mansfield, if they could have got one more goal, would have gone ahead of them on goals scored, wouldn't they? So they were one. I think they were two behind. No, one behind on goal difference in the end, because they only won 2-0 at Colchester. They actually scored in like the 97th minute or 96th minute, I think, and there was like 8 minutes added on at Colchester.
Yeah, there was a long
wait. Was
long injury time.
So that completed the job, really. Obviously, Bradford, we'll talk about in a minute. They drew 1-1 with Leyton Orient, but I mean they were always pretty comfortable in that, I think, weren't they? Really. So Orient were really pushing. So everyone was happy with the result. So there you go. That sums it up for the first half. Then Dan, we'll take a short break, and then we'll be back to look ahead to the first leg of the playoffs.
Hi, I'm John Halpin, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Halpy helping us out there at the half-time break. Dan, yes, preview time. Playoff preview time. Oh, that's exciting, isn't it, really? It's a long time since we've been able to do this. How are you feeling? Just before we get into some of the nitty-gritty and stuff, are you nervous ahead of these, or are you kind of like, you know what? We've had a brilliant season considering what happened last season and recent years. Let's just enjoy it.
Just see what happens.
Simple as that. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think Simmo sort of summed up, hasn't he, when the way he said that, look, the 3 teams who are playing the playoffs, their budget dwarfs ours, doesn't it, really? They can spend a huge amount more on wages than we can. So to be where we are, brilliant, amazing achievement. Let's see if we can kick on and maybe get that one more game added on top, possibly, and then who knows from there. There you go. We've not got behind enemy lines for this week. The quick turnaround and trying to fit something in just hasn't been possible, so we're not going to be speaking to any Bradford fans ahead of the game. Dan's just been chatting with them on their message board instead, haven't you? Winding them up, I suppose. So best way to do it.
No, I've just been reading it.
Have you been reading it? I thought you'd been chatting with them.
No, just reading it. Yeah.
Fair dues. Right, Dan, I've got a question of the week for you. It's playoff related this week.
Oh dear.
So I think you'll do well with this one. I don't think you'll find it too tough, to be fair. It's a good one for the listeners as well. So this weekend's game will be our 10th game in the playoffs. Across all playoff competitions we took part in, including the National League or conference as it was back then. So in those previous 9 games, we have had 9 different goal scorers score for us in those games? Can you name all 9 of them? There's actually 10 different, really, but one of them was an own goal from Jordan Moore-Taylor in the game against Exeter at Brunton Park. So I'm not counting that one because, who's going to remember that? So that, I think Nicky Adams played a cross in there, the player put in his own net, didn't he? So there you go. So 9 different goals. What I'd say is actually one of those goal scorers has scored twice, but 9 different goal scorers.
Right. Let's think about this. So I'm going to go backwards in time.
Mm-hmm.
Exeter away.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Kennedy and O'Sullivan.
Yes.
Home game. Sullivan scored the home game as well.
He did. It was a cross shot that lobbed over the keeper from the touchline.
Right. And the own goal was in that game, wasn't it?
The own goal was in that game as well. So there's another goal.
One more scorer from that game.
Yeah.
Trying to think who else scored in that game.
The famous picture of him.
I'll get the easy ones out of the way from the conference
Go on.
here.
Go on.
It was Livesey and Billy at home, and Murphy at
Stoke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got them.
What other years is there then?
So there's 93, 94.
So who scored at Wickham away? What was the other year again?
And 07, 08.
07, 08, wasn't it? Yeah. 07, 08 was Leeds away, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that was Graham and Bridge Wilkinson.
Yes, Danny Graham's arse scored one of the goals.
Yeah, and Bridge Wilkinson, and we didn't score at home.
So you're missing.
So what have I got? I've got Wickham away.
One from Wickham and one from the home game against Exeter. The Exeter one, there's not famous, but there's a picture of the player running away celebrating this goal. I think it was the equaliser to make it 3-3. I'm going to have to push you for time soon. Cause we can
just tell us. It's got to come to us, especially the Wickham one.
So, I mean, the Wickham one was a penalty. I'll give you a little clue there.
No, I'll just say it. My head's gone.
Simon Davey.
Ah, yes, it was, yeah.
And the game against Exeter, he was a striker. Didn't score too many around about that time, but he was a good little player. Sean Miller.
Oh, yeah. Sean Miller.
Header at the far post. But it was a really, really good goal, that one. But there you go. So there you go. So that's the list. Simon Davey obviously against Wickham in 93-94. Livesey and Billy against Aldershot, and then Murphy against Stevenage in the final in 04-05. In 07-08, Graham and Bridge Wilkinson against Leeds in the away leg, and then the home leg against Exeter was a Jordan Moore-Taylor own goal and John O'Sullivan and Sean Miller, and then the away game was Jason Kennedy and John O'Sullivan. So there you go. That's the 9 different goal scorers, Carlisle goal scorers at least, for games in the playoffs. So obviously, hopefully everyone could have got good scores in that one. Let's get into it then, Dan. Referee for the game on Sunday night is Ross Joyce from Cleveland. It's Joyce's 8th season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 29 games so far this season, handing out 116 yellows and 6 red cards. Last season, he handed out 113 yellow and 8 red cards in 37 games. The last United game he took charge of was the 1-0 win at Rochdale earlier this year. Wasn't a huge amount of controversy in that game. Maybe, possibly, he could have punished J.K. Gordon for a stray arm in that game. It sounds quite familiar, doesn't it, really? So you've got to be careful with that, J.K. But obviously he's not available for this one. Interestingly, there's actually a reserve assistant referee for this one. So I think they're sort of covering themselves off because it's on telly and stuff. They don't want to be embarrassed by a referee being injured and someone from the crowd having to come in and stuff, which is, I always enjoy that. It's always fun, isn't it, to see someone come in from the crowd doing that. 59th meeting between the two sides. 21 United wins, 15 draws and 22 wins for the Bantams. Bradford City then. They've had a slight wobble at the end of the season, haven't they? In the last 6 games. But when you look at their overall form, other than Stockport, they are one of the form teams coming into this, aren't they, really? When you look at it, because if you go back far enough, they've only had 2 defeats in the last 16 games. Or if you want to go back to the last 22 games, only 3 defeats. So, they're not a side that's beaten easily, are they?
No, they're a strange team. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Strange team.
I mean, if you're looking...
They'll chuck a good result in, follow it up with a bad result.
Yeah. It's a very odd one, isn't it? I mean, I'm looking down at the squad again here, and there's a lot of quality in there. But there's also a lot of, it's pretty average him, isn't he? Sort of plays in there, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, I've got a couple of mates who follow them, and they just can't work themselves out. So what chance have we got?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one to start with is one of the ex-Blues, Andy Cook. I mean, his goal-scoring record this season's quite phenomenal, isn't it? Really, and actually, he finished the season with 28 goals out of the 61 that they scored in the league. Nearly half of their goals coming from him. They are heavily reliant on him, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, completely. I think the next goal scorers, what did I read? They're not on many anyway.
Yeah, I think he's chipped in about 7 or 8 assists as well. So he's a good target man in terms of that stuff as well. And
yeah.
He's not the most pleasing on the eye footballer sometimes, Andy, but he's so effective at this level, isn't he? He's just a big battering ram, and his finishing's clearly very good. Don't want to tempt fate, but he's not scored against us yet, but apologies. Touch wood. I know I've completely jinxed that one now. But yeah, is it one of those ones where you just try and mark him out the game, or do you just try and stick to your own game with this one?
He scores lots of goals. Doesn't score against us, though, does he?
Like I said, we've both just put the complete jinx on it, haven't we? But in terms of
He's got to be up against Paul Huntington, isn't he?
Yes, in fact, that's a fair point, actually. Huntington wasn't available for the game at Bradford City, was he? He injured himself in the game before for the away leg, and Huntington had a great game in the game at Brunton Park. Obviously scored the goal that won the game, so that'll hopefully help us a little bit more, because Feeney did pretty well in that game down at Valley Parade, but actually what Cook then realised, he sort of peeled off and started targeting Barkley a bit more, and that actually gave him a little bit more joy in terms of the aerial side of it. So I do wonder if it's a case of just Huntington will deal with Cook and the other two can pick out who's around them, really, and then that's the challenge there. I mean, I'm looking at their last lineup. It looks like Jamie Walker and Scott Banks maybe playing either side of... it is Scott Banks, isn't it? So I'm just double checking his name there. Yeah, Scott Banks, the lad I know from Palace. Yeah, it looks like those two were sort of on either side of Cook, weren't they? So the job would be on... I was going to say Feeney there, but he's not fit. Obviously, Barkley and... Well, not Barkley, sorry. Whelan and Armour, if we went with the same formation we did against Sutton to deal with them, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's... I know we said it earlier, who'd be a manager? It's... I really don't know.
It's a tough one to judge. I mean, it looks like they're playing a 4-3-3 at the moment. So to whether we go match up against that, maybe, or we'll talk about what we think the formation should be anyway soon. Mark Hughes, their manager, certainly a combative character. It's fair to say, always has been throughout his whole career, both as a player and a boss. Do you think he's done a decent job there, all things considered?
I think because of the size of the club and he's a big name, some people may have expected him to do better, but he's still finished in the top 7.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said,
so
they've ended the season very strongly as well in terms of their form. They've clearly picked up a bit. I think he gets a little bit of undeserved stick, maybe. I think a bit more stick than he probably deserves. There's probably things he should have done better with them, but I think with the squad he's got and what he's been able to bring in and stuff, and actually, they're probably about where they should be, really. I know there were second favourites going into the season, but bookies, again, as you say, Dan, they just take one look and go, big club, big manager, yeah, big crowds. They're going to be right up there, aren't they? Whereas they had quite a big job to turn around from last season, didn't they? Because when we look back to last season, where did they finish? They finished, 14th?
Yeah.
You know? So they weren't. It's not like they just missed out on the playoffs last season and then they're going to kick on to get to promotion. It was always going to be tough, and they are as you said, they're a very demanding set of fans, aren't they?
Yeah. Like I said, I've been reading a lot on their forum, and there's a very wide range of views, which is to be expected with a big fan base.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling with some of them, there's a bit of a sense of we're too good for this division, where a lot of them are like, no, we're not. We're in this division because we are. Just deal with it. It's and obviously they get the good crowds. I mean, don't get me wrong, the catchment area is big, but they're able to price it competitively. I mean, I think every year they say they sell 16,000.
Yeah.
16,000 don't turn up
it?
every week. They don't turn up every week because they're that cheap. They just get counted anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, let's be honest. Bradford City shouldn't be in League Two.
They should be in the Championship, really. The size of the club
certainly top end League One into the Championship.
Yeah, definitely.
But they're there because they are, and the majority of them appreciate that. It's I mean, you look at, you'd rather see Bradford City go up than a Stevenage, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But you'd rather see Carlisle go up than Bradford.
Naturally. But that's just football, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In terms of, we've talked about this squad a bit this season. Any other players other than Cook that you'd pick out there that catch your eye in the Bradford squad this season? Richie Smallwood was the big one in the summer, wasn't he?
Smallwood was the name in the summer, but I think he's had a bit of a
up-down season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He was very good against us in the game down at Bradford, actually, to be fair. I was quite impressed with him in that game.
Yes, he was.
He was really good in that one. I mean, Jamie Walker looks a very good player. What we saw him at the end of last season, that final game of the season, when he played his last game as a low knee before he signed permanently. Other than that, I mean, defensively, I think there's weaknesses there. I think that can be exploited. Do you?
Potentially.
Yeah, it's. I look at that defence and it doesn't strike me as that's one of the most solid defences in League Two. Personally, I feel like there's definitely a chance there to get at them possibly, and it's going to be tough for us because obviously our form's dropped off a little bit. Yeah, but we'll have to see.
But it's a fresh game, isn't it? There's no
exactly.
It's two legs. It's league standings don't count anymore. They're just two one-off games.
Exactly, and as we've seen before, they can be chaotic, these playoff games. Got to give a little mention to some comments after Bradford's draw against Leyton Orient to their defender, Brad Halliday. Have you seen these, Dan?
Yes.
So the exact phrase he said, and this is from Simon Parker, who's the reporter for the Telegraph and Argus newspaper, and he quotes, "The two legs will be two big crowds, and when we go to Wembley, it'll be even bigger." And Parker says, "It wasn't a slip of the tongue, but a statement of confidence from Brad Halliday." It's also quite a good team talk for Paul Simpson, isn't it?
You pin it up on the wall, don't you?
Yeah. Players are going to be confident. That's fine. There's no real issue. But
he's trying to. He's just trying to be confident and G's teammates up,
but one thing it can do is really G up the opposition, because certainly the one thing I'll say about Paul Simpson, he's certainly not arrogant enough to think that we're definitely there, we're definitely going to the final. He knows it's going to be tough, doesn't he? He's been very careful in the way he words it, and it's interesting. So I had a look at a couple of the Bradford forum post things and on Twitter and stuff, and some of them were saying this has sort of it's reminiscing of back in I think the 90s when they played against Blackpool in the playoffs, possibly in League One. What was this? Would have been the second division back then. I think it would have been. And in the match programme for the second leg against Blackpool, they had an advert for buses for Wembley. So literally, the managers handed out all throughout the programme saying, "See that? They think they're already there. Let's beat them." And Bradford went and beat them. I think that's so. You have to be careful with these things sometimes, don't you?
Yes, yes, you have to be organised behind the scenes in case.
Yes.
But
because I've seen a few people
don't advertise the fact.
I've seen a few people because we put the ticket details out like an hour or two after the
full time
with Sutton, and people saying like, "Oh, they're very quick with them." It's like, well, yeah, like every club who's possibly going to be in the playoffs will all speak to each other and say, right, this is what you're getting if we get there. They probably send the batches of tickets. In fact, I know from memory they send batches of tickets up because we were involved in a discussion about it in 2011-12 when we still had a possible chance of the last day of the playoffs. So you get sent different batches of tickets and told, right, if you need to use them, these are what you can use. It's all agreed beforehand. There's no like panic suddenly as soon as the game's gone, is it? You've got to plan these things ahead. Wembley will already be sorted, for both teams. You'll know what your allocations are going to be.
All the four secretaries from the playoff teams will have been on, and all Mansfield as well will have been involved.
God, imagine
for
them,
preliminary basic planning.
Yeah, exactly. It must be gutting for them. Not involved now. Yes, right. Let's talk about United then, Dan. So obviously going into this one injury wise, Brendan Dickinson and Toby Silva are both back in training now, but they're probably not going to feature this season. Simmo has been fairly clear that he doesn't want to risk Dickinson, isn't he? I think for this. Other than that, I've heard Jack Ellis is back in training, possibly very light training, but again, he's not going to be back in time for the end of the season. We understand now Morgan Feeney could be available for the playoff final if needs be.
Yeah, Finn Back as well. Finn Back tweeted a picture of his boots on and a ball last week.
I mean, as much as you don't maybe want to throw people and stuff like that, if he's available for the final, I pick him. I pick him straight away because straight away you've got so much better balance in that team, don't you? I think. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but if we got to that position, I 100% would. Sadly, Jamie Devitt is now done for 4 months, which is a real shame for him, isn't it?
Yeah, he posted up on his socials a picture from his post-operation. Obviously, everyone sends their wishes to him. Whilst he hasn't featured as much this season, he's certainly been a key part of the squad. And I think it's important to remember that it's not just the 11 on the pitch; it's squad of 25.
There's nothing worse
because there's always people injured. There's always people on the bench out of form, suspended.
And there's nothing worse in those situations when you've got players in the squad taking, in the dressing room, not involved in stuff, when they're bad eggs and they really stink out the room and really, their attitude really brings everyone down. With someone like Jamie Devitt, you've got someone there who clearly eggs them all. He really gets them all on, doesn't he? He gets them going, and that's a big part of any squad. And to be fair, it looks like that with everyone. Mick Kelly looks really, really like he's enjoyed his season. He hasn't played a league game for us, and yet there he is. He's really a big part of it. So he might not be here next season, but you might go away with a playoff winners medal. That's just the reality of it. So in terms of out on loan, obviously Max Kilsby's not going to be available still for now. And suspended for this one, John Mellish has got 2 more games to go on his ban. And J.K. Gordon's going to miss the first leg, but he'll be back for the second leg. So come on then, Dan. Dilema. 4-3-3 or 3-5-2. 5-3-2, whatever you want to call it.
I'm really, really 50-50.
I'm the same.
Because there's pros and cons for both, isn't there?
Absolutely. I'm... The thing I can't get out of my head about this is what we said earlier about the fact that Barkley's not really a right wing back.
No.
Having him in the team, he does a solid job. Defensively, perfectly fine playing that role. He's good.
But he's not going to go bombing down the wing, is he?
And that's the whole point of having him.
He will, don't get me wrong, he will now and again, but it's not going to be as pretty or effective, is it?
No, certainly not on the same level that Jack Arm does down the other side. And that leaves you, like I said, it leaves you lopsided. And the whole point of having wing backs is that they get up and down. They causing problems on both sides. And when we had Finn back doing it and Armour on the other side, we attacked down both wings, and we'd have Gibson drifting out wide to help him back on the right, and then on the left you'd have John Mellish bobbing forward as the overlapping centre back or underlapping centre back, and then you could effectively drop to be a back four at the back, where Feeney and Huntington drop it in to be two centre backs. So we're in a situation with injuries and suspension. We don't really have the options. So let's say we're going for 3-5-2 initially. Let's look at it that way. What do you go with for this? Do you bring Gibson maybe into play as wing back? Drop Barkley to be one of the centre backs?
I debated that one, and Gibson at Bradford, there's always a bit of needle. He'd wind them up a bit.
Yeah.
But then you're potentially talking of Whelan at left centre back, which hasn't been great.
Could play Barkley there. That's an option.
Yeah.
If you're going 3-5-2, is what I'd do. I'd put Gibson as my right wing back.
I think I would.
I'd get Armour back to being my left wing back.
Yeah.
And like you said, with my back three, I would go with Whelan as the right sided, Huntington as the centre, and then put Barkley on the left. I know it's risky, you're not playing, but the thing is, you're probably not. They're not going to attack in the same way anyway, those ones. The only other option is, like you said before, maybe you try Jack Robinson there, possibly. He can get forward.
It's a big ask for the lad, though, isn't it?
It's a huge ask. This is the dilemma in it. And it's just so frustrating that John's not available. Because if John's available, it's pretty straightforward, isn't it? You go with that, don't you? But yes, I'd do that. And then your midfield, as it was, Moxon, Guy and McCalmont. And then up front, Dennis, probably and Patrick, I'd say. Because, I'd imagine he'd be up for it against Bradford. If you go 4-3-3, what do you do then?
If you go 4-3-3, I would probably have Barkley as your right back, because he's not going to be attacking as much. Whelan, Huntington, Armour.
Yeah.
Your midfield three picks itself.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably go Patrick and Gibson.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. I agree with you. I think, and I know as much as ex-Bradford, you think, you don't want them to get riled up by the crowd, but actually they'll rile the crowd up, and that's not a bad thing, They'll get
with
our
Dennis starting, and then your substitutes are Edmondson and Garner, aren't they?
So you would start Dennis over Garner in this one?
Yeah, I like Garner coming off the bench at the moment.
I think I'd maybe start Garner. I think I'd possibly start Garner in this one. First leg. Try and keep it tight. Try and hold onto the ball a bit more up front. Get Gibson and Patrick around him, picking up the balls, and McCalmont pushing on a bit as well. And then maybe you can bring Dennis on for your last 15 minutes if you're trying to chase a goal when it gets a bit more chaotic. That's personally what I'd do. And then I'd probably start Dennis for the second leg, strangely enough, because we're at home and I think you've got to go for a goal a bit more. So... But yeah, it's a tough one for Simmo. I really don't. We always say this, but I really don't envy his decision to make this week, because there must be a lot of thought going into it. Because we did well in that first half at Bradford last time round, but the second half it was very much backs to the wall. We had Mellish available then as well. That's what you remember as well. So yeah, tough, very very tough decisions to be made. In terms of going into this game, Dan, our form, are you concerned? I mean, it's one of those ones that, as you said before, it is very much form goes a little bit out of the window for the players, isn't it?
Yeah, the playoffs, they're great to watch. They're horrid when you're in them, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that Exeter 2 leg showed that.
Yeah.
That was like a roller coaster.
Yeah, I feel better than I do. When we went into that game against Exeter last time, back in 2016-17, to those playoffs, we got a brilliant result on the last day to get in there, didn't we? Basically, when you look back at it. But actually, if you look at our overall form going into that, we'd only won 3 of our last 15 or something like that. Now I know actually going into this one, we've only I think won maybe 2 of our last however many. I'm just trying to get I'm flicking between the results from the 2 seasons right now. We've only won 2 of our last maybe 10, I think. But actually, we've only lost 3 games that time. We've drawn quite a few. And actually, if you go back even beyond that, we had 4 wins in a row. So I feel we're not getting battered. We're not scoring as many goals, but we're not getting battered by anyone. Salford scored the 3, but that was just a chaotic game. Beyond that, we've kept so many clean sheets. We've been so tight. I feel a bit more confident going into this. What do you think?
Yeah. So I think we're a better team than we were last time.
Yes, definitely, 100%. I think the only problem we've got is the injuries. That's the only problem. The injuries it's not even so much. It's not even so much the injuries. It's the fact that the injuries are all down the bloody right side. That's really killed us and removed an option from that area, hasn't it? Really, but there you go. Right then, should we do predictions, Dan? We didn't get any points last week, shock horror, because no one predicted a 1-1 draw or an own goal, did they? So, what are you going for?
Oh, I really don't know. I'm going to go a tight 2-1 win.
Okay.
I'm going to go for Dennis and Garner.
Ooh, right, okay. I'm going to go... I feel like it's going to be goals, but... I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Goals for Gibson and Patrick. The ultimate wind-up goal scorers. Right, here's Mike's prediction sent from the sun in Miami. I think he's over there, isn't he, at the moment? Or is it Miami? Or Florida, anyway. He's over in Florida on holiday. So here's Mike's predictions.
I'm going to go for a hard-fought 0-0 draw.
Yes, cheers for that, Mike. Certainly enjoying himself, isn't he? I'm sure he's going to try and find somewhere to watch the first leg this week. I think he's back for the second leg. I don't know if he's working or not, but he's certainly back for it. Right, Dan, X-Files. And not a huge amount to round up for the end of the season?
No, the season obviously coming along, but there's still the odd bits. The weekend, couple of doubles. Jack Marriott scored twice for Fleetwood. They ended the season with a 2-2 draw against his old side Ipswich. He'll have enjoyed that. Cole Stockton scored 2, a brace for the 3rd game in a row, but it wasn't enough to stop Morecambe losing 3-2 at Exeter. You've actually missed one here.
Well, no, I haven't, because I've gone back and checked it, and it's been given to someone else, because you put down that he'd score for them. Yeah. So it's weird, because the Scottish goals quite often get disputed. I've noticed that quite a lot, actually. Yeah.
Former defender Peter Grant, he put his ball in his own net for Dumbarton as a drew 1-1 at Stranraer. He was actually credited with the goal. Yeah. But obviously it's since changed. That does happen a little bit.
He was booked as well, and he was hooked at half time. So he had a great day,
quite
really.
The first half, a little bit of promoted and relegated. The Plymouth contingent, Cosgrove, Gillespie, Schumacher became champions. Yeah. We forgot to mention Jordan Marshall at Dundee, didn't we?
Yeah.
Congrats
to him.
Jack Sowerby got promoted with Northampton. Relegated out of League One, Simmo, Genoa and Stockton from Morecambe. Yeah. And Joshua Cady at Milton Keynes. It's a bit harsh because he's been out most of the season. I think he's got an ACL or something, hasn't he?
Yeah, some sort of bad knee injury.
But technically he's at MK, so...
I think his contract's up at Rotherham as well, possibly this summer. So I'd imagine
speaking of contracts, retained and released lists have started popping out.
Yeah.
Because we're in the playoffs, what we've decided is we're going to keep an eye on them over the next couple of weeks, make a note of all the ex-Carlisle, and then once our season is completed, be it after the semis or after any final, when we release ours, we'll do an episode where we cover our list and then we'll mention, that can be the ex-Blues for that episode. So
yeah. definitely.
We're already making notes. There's been quite a few already, hasn't there?
Already making notes of some interesting potential targets as well, haven't we, really? That'll be good
Possibly,
for the summer episode, obviously, when we do one of those ones. But there you go. Well, that's it then, Dan. That's it for this preview episode for the playoffs. I'm going to start getting nervous when Sunday night gets closer, aren't I? It's going to be a very, very tense one. That one, I think it's fair to say. I can't wait though. I mean, to play in front of a big crowd like that as well, in a big occasion, it's going to be very, very exciting. When you consider where we were last season, it's a remarkable achievement, isn't it, to get ourselves to that stage?
Oh, of course it is. Like I've said loads, if you were offered 5th place on the 1st of August, you'd snapped hands off, wouldn't you?
Well, the amount of people who writ us off last summer. We didn't. We as usual predicted we'd finish in the playoffs. We always do that, don't we? So we actually got it right for once. So there you go. So we'll be. I should say thanks once again to our sponsor, the London branch, for their support this season. Always hugely appreciated. I didn't get a pub through in time for this one actually, in terms of where drinking beforehand. But I think last time it was the Bradford Arms, wasn't it? That's usually the pub that we end up going to. It's just on the way to the ground. It's fairly easy to find.
I think the pubs will be a tad busy, mind.
Oh, they will. I'm driving, so I won't be drinking anyway. So it's not too much of a concern for me. It sounds like quite a lot of our fans are going to be driving actually, because there's been some issues with buses.
Yeah, there's been a few bus issues with a few folk.
Yeah, real shame that, but there you go. In terms of upcoming episodes, obviously we'll be previewing the second leg at some point next week. It'll be a slightly different one because we won't. It'll be more of just a review of the first leg, really, won't it? And then maybe just a few little thoughts on the second leg, because we've talked about Bradford already, so there's no point of us talking about 10-15 minutes again, is there, done about Bradford's squad and stuff like that. No. So it'll be probably a slightly shorter episode, but there you go. And then, well, beyond that, who knows? We're not getting ahead of ourselves here, are we? We're not getting ahead of ourselves. We'll have to wait and see what happens after that. Thanks everyone for listening, and most importantly of all, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.